気のいい日、石の上にサンドイッチを置いたら焼けてホットサンドになる。
Well, that might be the case if you're in the for kids version of Pokemon. This week, we opened at the Lair of the Bundles with Gentle confronting Narcissist. Yeah, apparently she hated the fact that she ended up making the food fairies cry last week because, again, we're supposed to feel bad for these little peeping fairies.
Stop peeping!
Even though myself and several commenters weren't really feeling it, but whatever. I guess they're trying to establish Gentle as a lawful evil, as her tenure as a villain is likely coming to an end soon. You know, I'm half tempted to put up a Gentle headache counter, but this one's number is already high enough, and it's gonna be a pain to keep track of both, especially considering what I'm about to do. Oh, and Narcissist also mentioned that she could lighten the fairy's suffering by controlling the extra power she put into the box, which, yeah, just makes me wonder why he didn't tell her that, and in fact, why wouldn't Gentle try to control her own powers?
That's just lazy writing.
We then cut over to our heroines arriving at school. No, don't count that. I just want to ask, is the narrator becoming cynical? Yeah, for this narrator who's kind of been hand-holding the show for the longest time, that was surprisingly snarky. Honestly, I think a narrator can add to a show, especially if they have some form of personality, like the one in Battle Spirit's Heroes, or even better, the one from Okami-san who's a total smartass.
それなりにファンがいるという感じですわね。
リンゴさんとキャラ被ってますよね。
I mean, granted, I would have preferred if this joke had just been Kokune making the comebacks like many of Blue recently, but I'll take this over the bland as rice narrator we've gotten so far.
あら、ランちゃんも勉強が苦手なようね。
Okay, even if that was passive-aggressive, I still have to count that.
考察ありがとう。
But yeah, Ron was depressed because Omne, or rather Gentle, had made it so that everyone in the school would have to take a proficiency pop quiz, with anyone who flunked it being forced into remedials. I would question how just the student council president would have that much authority, but there are things I can complain about later. Anyway, our heroines tried to get in some last-minute studies.
力を合わせればどんな強敵でもへっちゃらなはず。
Take one off for that good joke. What? It's my counter. I can make up new rules if I want. I mean, granted, maybe she was spoiling the fact that Gentle was scheming something, but come on, with how crash she's been in this episode so far, that had to be a potshot against Yui.
Is this my pen?
それいつ使うの？
I don't know, maybe when you're dealing with Jim Carrey. The pen is blue! The goddamn pen is blue! Not too surprisingly, the pink and yellow of this team did prove to just be a little below the average, only knowing answers to stuff that they were really interested in.
花より食べ物のことわざならわかるんだ。
Well, it worked for Theodore that one time. Oh god, I feel old. That, of course, brought up the age-old question, why did they need to learn most of this stuff? Which, let's face it, we've all asked at some point. For me, it was geometry, which, yeah, that was totally worthless. However, when in doubt...
私もそう思っておばあちゃんに聞いたことがあるの。そしたら
悪魔のささやきは時として天使の声に聞こえるってな。
But yeah, it amounted to a basic message about expanding our brains, even if it was with useless information, just so that we could imagine more things, which is a good enough message, I guess. They also managed to relate their studies back to their hobbies.
材料がどこで作られたかって社会で習うもんね。なんか勉強し
Toei, are you watching my videos? However, once the Cures got their tests, it seemed to be a tad bit above their grade levels.
君たち3人の問題だけ難しいものにすり替えておいた。
Okay, one, why are you saying that out loud to yourself, other than for some blatant exposition? And two, wouldn't the teachers notice that the Cures got different tests than everyone else? I mean, they did mention that it was multiple choice, so maybe Gentle somehow matched up the answer key to their mod test with the regular test, but even then, wouldn't the teacher be like, these tests look significantly different. Was there some sort of printing error? Ah, who cares? They don't pay me enough to look into this stuff. I'll just fail these little brats. My best assumption is that Gentle also graded them, which again, I don't think a student council president should have that much authority, and even then, shouldn't the teacher also look over that stuff? I really do want to call this a clever plan, as it did work on 2/3 of this team, but I can't when I can poke these many logic holes in it. Anyway, Yui ended up apologizing to Rosemary for being unable to keep a parfait appointment with him, and who the hell are you, kid? Get out of here, you're not important. With most of her enemies in detention, Gentle made her next move to hello ma'am, may I take your order? Oh, god damn it, there's some kind of con going on, isn't there? Please tell me the guys at least remember to put on some deodorant this year. Anyway, she captured a couple of fairies, including some potato salad that Ron just so happened to be in the mood for because, I don't know, maybe she can also read minds now too. And Kokone was forced to solo fight with the Monster of the Week, while Gento ran. Wait, she can outrun Rosemary's Delicious Field? Then why didn't she up until now?
The answer is don't think about it.
Back with our other two heroines, they tried to force that one kid from earlier to help them, which, you know, even if it's just hints, I'm pretty sure that's called cheating, and y'all really shouldn't be encouraging that, but whatever, gotta save the world and all that. And I guess that kid was also there to establish that he was supposed to be an important character. Hard to tell since he's been so grossly underused in the show. But yeah, Takumi had become sus of both Rosemary and the Ubalzo, the former for obvious reasons, though in the case of the latter, he found it weird that they didn't attack anyone, which I would say was more because Rosemary would immediately put up the Delicious Field every time, so there was really no basis to say that they were harmless or make any harebrained theories later. Anyway, Ron managed to finish her assignments first and intercepted Gentle while Kokone dealt with the Ubalzo. It was actually a pretty awesome setup with two fights going on at once. Well, except for... Okay, so I'm not gonna make a counter or anything, but question of the video, do you think they kind of overdid with this whole headache thing? Like, holy hell, I think almost every scene with her in the past few episodes has had her holding her head as though she were Rita Repulsa or Master Xandred without his, medicine. Anyway, these were still some very solid fights, and I did like the aspect of Yui making the run and save as though this were the WWE or something. Kokone then finished it off with sound effects from the actual toy. Like, seriously, only her attacks sounded overly electronic. I think either they lost the original sound files, or this was one of the most extreme cases of being toyetic I've ever seen. Anyway, Ron also used her new toy to have a little beam battle with Gentle that she won after the thief was distracted by the defeat of her monster. From there, the other two cures just appeared from stage left. And Yui tried to pull an even bigger Detective Conan impersonation than she did in episode 6, and I think she should just stick with soccer.
できるだけ被害が出ないようにしてた。学校でもみんなを守ろうとしてたんだよね。
Those are some really big assumptions there, Yui. I mean, you've hardly gotten to know this character as you've only interacted with Amane 1.5 times at best, while the rest of the time you've been dealing with Gentle's antagonism. That almost sounds like an oxymoron. Well, point is that those are a lot of assumptions that are really unfounded, as I did check. Almost every time an Ubalzo was summoned, Rosemary immediately put up a Delicious Field, so no collateral damage could occur. The one exception was in episode 6 when he wasn't at the school, and you know, even then, Gentle still had it attack you while you were untransformed. Her seemingly apologizing for hurting the fairies last week shouldn't just make up for that, and hell, how do you know she wasn't just faking it? And I get it, they do need to speed things along because of the hack and everything, but I also do suspect that they might have done this even if there hadn't been a hack, and even then, I do have to judge what has been given to us. I've also been told that the first 12 episodes were already done before the hack, but have been unable to confirm this. Whatever the case though, if they were going to build to this moment, then they really need to foreshadow it a lot better. Maybe actually show and not tell us that the Ubaozo never attack civilians, and maybe even have a few interactions with Amine within at least the first 8 episodes, which seem to play out exactly as planned. And if you couldn't tell by my little joke earlier, there's also been another certain little plot point that's been needlessly ignored. Anyway, the episode ended with the big shocking reveal that Gentle was Amine this whole time, and her brainwashing seemingly wore off, but then...
Bad touch, stranger danger.
While this episode did introduce some interesting new stuff, most notably for me, the narrator suddenly becoming a cynic, it also did have some very questionable writing, and not just from the Amine plotline. Granted, I might be nitpicky, but stuff like how Gentle managed to Shanghai the cures really irks me because it just didn't feel well thought out and just there for the sake of the plot. In this case, I think it was meant to act as an exposition dump and, more importantly, give Takumi something to do since he's been such a non-entity in this show. Stuff like that tells me that this show hasn't been well planned out, which, considering the writer's room, maybe that was the case. As of the time of this recording, the first 13 episodes of the show have been confirmed to have 4 writers, which is a little less than, say, last year's Tropical Rouge's 6. And while they could certainly add more later, the current staff are still all relatively new to this franchise, and some even new to writing in general. This episode reflected this, as even if the hack has sped things up, certain plot points have been in desperate need of better foreshadowing. But instead, I think they just kind of expect us to feel a certain way. They expect us to feel bad for the food fairies. They expect us to think Gentle's monsters weren't trying to hurt anyone. And they expect us to believe that Yui understands Amine, even though they've barely interacted. Even if the hack hadn't occurred, this twist at least should have been foreshadowed early on. Now, as for this episode itself, it did have some good moments. I am glad the narrator is starting to win me over. There's hinting at some new subjects that I really hope they explore more of, like food history, and the fights were good, especially the simultaneous aspect. However, everything else felt kind of half-baked, like Gentle's plan not making a lot of sense if you stop and think about it for a minute, and again, everything having to do with this poorly handled plotline. At this point, I want Gentle to become the 6th Ranger already, not because I want to see the new cure, but just so that we can end this plotline already, and its disjointed writing that might have taken a hit because of the hack, but honestly, I think it's just been poorly planned out from the very beginning. If you haven't seen it yet, we did something a little different this week by not taking a look at something that's magical girl related, at least not totally. But yeah, it was just a little overview of a slightly lesser known card game franchise, Battle Spirits, before we get to the big fish that is Yu-Gi-Oh! For that, we're playing to rank all of the openings of the franchise, while also praying that the copyright claims don't shoot us down. Yeah, that's kind of why it's gonna go on the secondary channel rather than this one. Still, hopefully look forward to it. Until then though, farewell for now my friends, and oh, looks like I gotta take another order. Ma'am, could you at least order some coffee or something and not just spy on those girls over there?